We would like to thank the Northern Virginia Saxophone Quartet. And we have Julio Chavez on the soprano, Jeannie Farnsworth alto, Michael Barr tenor, and Nyla Weiss baritone. So we're so appreciative of them being here today, and we really like to thank our music director for arranging all this summer. Rhea has done a really good job of continuing to bring in different types of music for our services, and so thank you for doing that. Well, welcome. It's nice to look out and see you, and we actually have a wonderful sunny day, and it's not too hot. Yay! You know, I'm pretty jazzed being back. You come back and there's a lot of things that happen, and of course it seems like all the things that people were concerned about, as soon as they're back, they want to come and tell me about it, which is fine. That's why I'm here for, and I appreciate and value that. But one thing that was really exciting, on Friday night we had kind of two gatherings. We had the gathering here where we were talking about worship, and it was really wonderful. Many of you came and you shared your ideas on the sort of things that you would like to see, and I really value and appreciate that. And then, of course, the same discussion happened at the men's group. So I now have the double whammy of what we need. But as we move forward this year, you'll see a lot of those things incorporated. But of course, I can't do this alone. So we're all in this together, and worship is a wonderful experience. And so when I asking for people to help out on various things, I'm sure you're going to say, yes, of course. But I'm just excited about that. And also, if you haven't in case remembered, that I'm actually marking a milestone. I've been with you now for 1 year. And what a wonderful year it has been, what a learning year, and I'm excited as we move into this next year because I'm gonna push you a little more. We're gonna be able to kind of begin to say, just who are we, and what are we about, and how do we define what it's like to be in this community? So, and talking about opportunities to be involved, I was really pleased yesterday. A United Community, which is a partner of ours, had what they called a block party, and we had a booth there. And it was very well attended by the community, and many people came by and said, oh, you know, Mount Vernon, yes, I've been there. Oh, tell me more. So I'd like to thank Bonnie and also John for putting that together and making it available for us to be involved in things in the community. So thank you, both of you. And then another opportunity, Eleanor, do you want to stand and raise your hand? She is our representative from the Virginia, well, you're better said. Here, come and tell us about it and what you need us to do in order to get involved.
Thank you. I'm Reverend Eleanor Pease. As many of you know, I've spent the last several months working on statewide Unitarian Universalist voice and values. And at the end of September, I am co-chairing a Commonwealth-wide Unitarian Universalist social justice conference. It's going to be in Williamsburg. Most of the events are on Saturday. It will be in your Windmill Weekly and hopefully slides, and I can forward you information. And I look forward to seeing some of you join us in Williamsburg. And thank you, and more to come.
Thanks, Eleanor. Mark your calendars for the 6th, where we'll be really honored to have Eric put his annual music together, and it's all going to be about social justice music. So I think it promises to be a good thing. And then the very next Sunday is our in-gathering in our water communion, and we have an opportunity to have the board service lunch. And so please mark that on your calendar and plan to attend. And today's service is all about roots, wings, and a vision for the future. And I'm excited to have in this the debut of Brian as our Director of Religious Education. Such a blessing to our congregation, and his enthusiasm and ideas. Many of you have had an opportunity to chat with him, but we're really great to have him, and honored to have him here. And so now let us prepare to enter into our worship.
Thank you all very much. And now I would like to invite my new friend, Catherine Tobin, up to do the chalice lighting for us today.
Good morning, everyone, and good morning to all of you online as well. Our words for this week's chalice lighting come from Reverend Forrest Church. We are born into a world we did not make, and we die into a world we cannot control. Between those two mysteries lies the precious gift of life. To be alive is to be rooted in love, lifted by hope, and invited day by day to be born again.
Thank you, everyone, for your patience. I'm new at this. Yay!
And now invite you to stand if you're able for our opening hymn, Turn the World Around. And you can feel free to move on this. Let's get some movement. Even dance in the aisles if you'd like.
Okay.
1074.
Yeah. For 1074, what we'll be doing is, if you look at the first page, we'll be doing that 3 times. You notice there's 3 verses for it. Then we'll be going to the second page. Then from there, we'll be going to the third page. And we'll be doing that and the first half of the 4th page twice. Then we'll be going on to the second half of the 4th page. Then we'll be going on to the 5th page. Yes! And we'll be doing that one 3 times. Then we'll get to the last page and we'll do that twice.
Just follow her. She'll lead you well.
So if you get lost, nobody cares. You know, sing whatever you feel like singing. Hopefully I can stay in it. We come from the fire, everything in the fire. Go back to the fire, turn the world around. We come from the water, everything in the water. Go back to the water, turn the world around. We come from the mountain, living on the mountain. Go back to the mountain, turn the world around. Whoa, so here's life from
And while you're standing, let us recite our covenant. Words are in your order service. Love is the teaching of this church. The quest of truth is in its daily task, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve life in community, to the end that all souls shall grow in harmony. This is our covenant with each and with all. And Brian, we'll turn it over to you for time for all ages.
I'm stealing y'all's microphone for a moment. So I need 5 people to join me in the front, either the young or the young at heart, depending on what we have for an exercise here. I'll give you a moment. Okay, I see some movement. Good, good. How are y'all doing today? That's good. I know, I'm scary because you haven't met me yet. So today in our service, as Dave said, we're talking about our hopes for the future, our dreams. And we're not talking about the type of dreaming you do when you're asleep, but the type you do with your eyes wide open. We're talking about our hopes and our wishes and our visions for this community, right? So I brought a very special little jar. This is our dream jar. We're going to fill it full of all of our hopes and our wishes for this community. Do you want to help me open that? I didn't think through that I only had one hand with a microphone. So right now, the jar is completely empty, but together we're going to fill it up. And I've also brought these colorful beads, each of which can represent our various dreams. So I'll start us off. I'm going to grab a bead that seems like the same color as what I'm dreaming and add it to the jar. So my dream for this community is that we will grow, both in our membership, but also our love, and in our ability to serve our neighbors. I'm going to ask each of you to go ahead and put a dream in the jar. It can be any dream you want. You can dream of more ice cream. You can dream that this moment ends. Whatever is nice for you. So here, let me pass the beads around for you. I'll give you a second to think. But as we put our beads in the jar, if you could just give me at least one word for what your dream is. Can you say it into the microphone?
I wish for more coffee ice cream.
Oh my God, same.
I wish for the climbing tree to get bigger.
That's good.
Hope. World peace.
Thank you so much. Okay, so our jar is starting to fill up. We're actually going to go ahead and put a larger jar out front so all the congregants after the service can come through and add their hopes and dreams to the jar. Also, I forgot Claire. I'm so sorry.
I just want to echo what they said about peace.
Okay, so to world trees, peace, and a larger climbing tree. So I'm going to go ahead and have everyone go back to their seat. But thank you for helping bring our dreams together, and hopefully we can help make this a reality. Thank you.
And now this is a time where I invite you to come up and light a candle, either a joy or a sorrow, or both a joy and a sorrow. And so form 2 lines and now invite you to come forth. And now we invite to sing our children out. We hold you in our love as you go. May your heart be at peace as you go. To nurture the spark of your precious love. We hold you in our love as you go. And now comes the time for offering. We're sharing our gifts with, we have been doing all month with Faith Alliance for Climate Solutions. And so now will the ushers please come forward, and we'll now have our offering.
Music is just lovely. So I prepared a little thing to say for y'all today. So if ignorance is bliss, then I would say that my hometown was Eden. I grew up in the small community of Onaway, as in on your way to a larger town. Population 200 in a good year. Onaway is that sort of town whose only non-residential space is a bar where old men sit and grumble that young men won't come and drink with them any longer. It sits in one of those counties that boasts the lowest per capita education expenditures in the US. It is one of those places that progress left behind. A place that has not recovered from the local mill closure or the national farming crisis of the 1980s or the recession of 2008. But counterintuitively, it is also a place of great wealth, a place where you may live in a trailer park, but you wake each morning to birdsong, and no one has a worry over the children who walk themselves 2 to 3 miles to school in the morning and wander all about the town unsupervised at night. Onaway and its surrounding towns form the type of tight-knit community that even the very privileged could envy. To name but one example, 25 of the 33 people in my graduating class went to kindergarten with me, and a further 5 I've known longer than the time in which I could form coherent memory. Such incredible intimacy, although at times painful, taught me to trust, to see, to value each person that I meet. Predictably, Onaway was not a place that I could stay. There simply was not room for my wholeness in that logging town. I suppose that you could say that I, like Eve, was exiled for my hunger for knowledge, ostracized for seeking the truth of the world and myself. Accepting, of course, that for me, the forbidden fruit of the garden was Adam's apple. So, you see, as a child, I was handed a set of beliefs that simply could not coexist. A faith calling for mercy, a culture demanding masculine dominance, and an economic system that rewarded exploitation. What is more, I had a curiosity which was larger than my small town dreamed of people and worlds and ways of being that they could not even entertain. But the true moment of my exile comes down to the slamming of a single door. I can still taste the air, crisp but not biting, can remember the anemic dusting of snow on the sidewalk as I stood anxiously outside my best friend's house. It was my first time visiting since leaving for college. I knocked the first time upon that door I had entered so many times. No answer. I knocked a second time. No answer. I knocked a third time and heard a shuffling within the house. At this point, my friend's mother and the wife of my high school English teacher came to the door. She promptly told me to leave and never contact her family again. The door flew shut, and with the click of a deadbolt, I was barred from my past. Looking to rebuild the belief system I had lost, science became the Christ of my 20s. In sociology in particular, I saw a roadmap for fixing the social ills which had plagued my childhood, and so gave myself doggedly to the pursuit of knowledge, naively believing that if I could explain mechanisms of inequality well enough, others would be moved toward corrective action by virtue of the truth. The rise of fascism in my mid-20s would violently disabuse me of this notion, showing me that our nation was not simply missing facts, but bereft something far more elemental: meaning. That ours was not a crisis of knowing, but a crisis of being. Thus, I came to Unitarian Universalism having already killed several gods. The morning was oppressively bright in that way only the California sun multiplied by refraction off the omnipresent Los Angeles pavement can be. And I was for the first time in over a decade headed to church. I had spent my first 6 months in Los Angeles adrift, friendless, and splitting my time between substitute teaching and labor organizing, drowning in the impersonality of the city, just barely making rent, inflation hitting my household budget like a hammer to the groin. I knew that I needed something to hold to, and in desperation I had found this wackadoodle religion called Unitarian Universalism on the internet. It supposedly shared my values in love and justice, but unlike the religion of my childhood, would not expect me to be less than I was, or to check my critical thinking at the door. And so I convinced my then fiance on Sunday that we should go to the First Unitarian Church of Los Angeles. I can still remember leaving our apartment that morning before the service, how irritable I was, even though it was my idea. And how when we pulled into the church parking structure, the way my hands began to shake, my body flooded with the memories of people who I love and who once I trusted deeply, but who had turned their backs on me. Upon entering the courtyard in front of the church, we were greeted by a kind young man who, as it turns out, was the lay preacher for that week. I was taken immediately with his sermon and this new faith of Unitarian Universalism.
I found in UULA a space outside my home where I did not need to pay to exist, a rare thing in Los Angeles. I found a social situation free from competition where I could be defined by more than my precarious position within the gig economy. And critically, I found a theology that asked all the big questions without accepting any small answers at all. But most importantly, I found a faith that welcomed me for who I truly was. I learned that I can bring every person I have ever been into a Unitarian church. The devotedly Christian child is welcome. The aggressively atheistic teenager is welcome. The rational academic, the heartbroken poet are all welcome. I realize that there is space in UUism for each person I will yet be. Unitarianism quickly became core to my life's work, providing a vehicle for me to utilize my training in education and social movement organization. Then in the fall of last year, I began my studies at the Starr King School for the Ministry and found a formal path to life in the church. Still, in this time where I found meaning, I was left wanting for the wealth which I had known in my childhood. Even 15 years after leaving my small town, I still struggled with the way in which the modern city asks us to treat those we meet as fleeting, interchangeable others. I still looked into crowds and found in the faces of strangers pieces of people that I had loved. Because community is not merely a where. Community is a way in which we live. As such, I always take my small town with me. And this brings me to what I found at long last here at Mount Vernon Unitarian. When I look around this room, I see the exact same species of wealth that I knew as a child. During my short time here, I have already been the recipient of 1 million little kindnesses, had the opportunity to witness the care this congregation lives. There was, for example, the first time that Becky and Bonnie drove me home from Mahjong on Wednesday. On the way back, they offered to take me by the local Giant to pick up groceries, and then they had difficulty fitting my groceries into their car because their back seat was packed full of purses filled with hygienic supplies meant to be delivered to one charity, or their trunk, and then their back seat was full of meal kits meant to be delivered to another charity. Then there is Jan Speakman, who did not allow such small troubles as 2 canceled flights and near total kidney failure to keep her from being the absolutely best hostess I have ever encountered. When I arrived in town, so in addition to driving me everywhere for a week, John and Jan, and giving me a place to stay, she sent me to my new apartment with an assortment of vegan and gluten-free snacks. It was very wonderful. That said, I see that Mount Vernon is not without its own troubles. So I want everyone to look around at who's sitting next to you here for a minute, okay? I want you to count in your head. In your row, how many people under the age of 30 years old do you see? How many people under the age of 40 years old? So let's go ahead and raise hands. I want you to just count from your row. How many do we see? Is it 0, 1? So I see 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 2. Oh, that's good. 0. So I'm not going to sugarcoat it. For a congregation, numbers like this are death. Not today, not even tomorrow, but in the years to come, if we cannot attract new members through our doors, we'll wither away. And yet, things aren't so very bleak, because we are creatures of free will, endowed with the capacity of self-reflection and growth, because as is often the case, the antidote to our problem has come alongside the poison. Earlier, I shared some of my story of disillusion and isolation, because I am not alone in those feelings. We live now in a time of torn social fabric, broken promises, and profound institutional distrust. As such, there are many young people who, just like me, are hungry for community and meaning. They are people who are bereft the very wealth that Mount Vernon has in abundance. That is to say that the crisis facing our community here at Mount Vernon is a perfect mirror to the crisis facing so many of Alexandria's young folks. And the beauty of such a balance of needs and resources is that in their symmetry, two wounds can become one bridge. Walking through Huntley Meadows with Catherine Tobin 2 weeks ago, she spoke passionately to me about making our covenant of love and service more than formless words. She spoke of being the isolated light on the hill no longer, but rather acting as water and flowing out and going down into the low spaces. She spoke of truly uniting MVUC with Alexandria's larger community. And this is what I see as our task going forward: to build a bridge between our community and the surrounding one, to break down all the walls we have built against love and let our kindness flow outward into the larger world, even as the world's kindness flows back towards us. I'm going to ask you to keep this in mind. Going forward, Reverend Dave and we're going to ask you to try some new things. And I know, new things suck. I know that it's a hard thing to change even when democracy is not in free fall and even when the world is not on fire. But I want you to know we are not asking you to make change for change's sake. We are asking you to choose life, to choose health, to choose continuity for this community that we all love. The plain truth, we are asking you to work with us to make our covenant more than words, to go out into the community and embody the love we speak each Sunday. The plain truth is that I will never return to the community of my birth and live with my wholeness intact. Similarly, this church will never again look exactly the way it looked 30 years ago. That America is gone. But if we have the courage to be honest with ourselves, we can build a path forward together. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Reverend Dave.
We do have a short hymn, Where Do We Come From, which only is fitting. Thanks, Brian, for that wonderful sermon.
Okay, this is page 1003. Now this is a round, so we will be doing it once all the way through as with everyone together, and then once as a round. We'll have group one over here, and then we'll have group two over here. Carl is going to lead group two.
Thank you, Paula, and the others. So, when I put together this sermon, I was on a plane coming back from Romania, and I was trying to think about roots and wings and new beginnings. And, you know, as I traveled through Romania, I found myself in places where our Unitarian roots really ran deep. I entered churches where generations had gathered to worship, to marry, to mourn, and to proclaim faith that was centered on conscience, reason, and human dignity. And as I looked at those old walls, I realized that I was not simply visiting our Unitarian history, but I was standing inside of a living story. Those communities survived because people before them decided that their faith was worth preserving and their future was worth investing in. And I came home understanding that roots are not meant to keep us in one place, but roots draw nourishment from the past so that new growth can reach toward the light. We too, as a congregation, have inherited something precious. The question is not only whether we will preserve it, the question is, what new life will we help it to produce? Think about that. In my own personal journey, I've experienced many new beginnings. And each time it has required me to step beyond the familiar. There was a time in my life when I had to decide whether the roots I inherited would hold me securely or prevent me from beginning fully myself. And coming out as a gay man meant stepping into an uncertain future. I did not know exactly where it would lead. I only knew that I could no longer live a life that was smaller than the truth of who I was. I discovered that I did not have to abandon everything that had formed me. I could carry forward the lessons of faith, service, perseverance, and love, while leaving behind the beliefs that told me I was not enough. Sometimes growing wings means discovering that our past can bless us without controlling us. I recall a time in my ministry when I was faced with this thing called congregational renewal. I entered a congregation that had been through a very painful season. Trust had been damaged, people were tired, some wondered what kind of future remained. Sound familiar? Renewal did not come because I arrived with the perfect solution. It began when people started listening to one another again, when they gathered around tables. They shared their hopes. Committees had once worked separately began cooperating. People stopped asking only, how do we survive? And they began asking, what are we here to do? The new beginning did not come from one heroic act. It came from many people investing a little more trust, a little more time, and a little more hope. So that experience taught me that congregations do not discover their wings when they avoid uncertainty. They discover their wings when they face uncertainty together. You know, when we celebrated our 70th anniversary last year, we planted 2 trees. And there was something wonderful and appropriate about that because a tree carries its history within it. Every ring bears witness to a new year, a year of sunlight, rain, thought, wind, and growth. But we did not plant those trees only for ourselves. We planted them knowing that others will someday rest beneath branches that we now are only beginning to grow. That is what investing in the future means. We plant something whose fullest beauty we may never see, and the decisions we make now are like those trees. We may not witness every life that will be touched by them, but our children, our neighbors, and people who have not yet discovered this congregation will inherit what we plant today. As a writer, I've learned that beginning a new book is both exhilarating and terrifying at times. I may know the characters and have a sense of the destination, but I cannot see every turn in the story. Still, I began. And I place the first words on an empty page because I trust that the story will reveal itself as I write. You know, congregational life is much the same. We cannot know every detail of our next chapter, but we can decide what values will guide us. We can decide whether it will be a story of fear or courage or scarcity or generosity or perseverance or possibility. For 70 years, people have been writing the story of this congregation. We did not write the opening chapter, and we will not write the final one. But this chapter now belongs to us. Our roots tell us that faithful people came before us. Our wings remind us that their journey was never meant to be the end of ours. In this new beginning, ask whether we will invest in people whose names we may never know. We have inherited sacred ground, a courageous faith, and a living community. Now we must decide, what will we pass on? The next chapter is waiting. The page is here before us, and together we must begin to write. I invite you into a vision of the future, the new chapter before us. As a writer, I know what it feels like to sit before a blank page. There's excitement because anything is possible. There's also uncertainty because the story has not yet revealed itself. But a blank page asks something of us. It asks us to begin without knowing every detail of the ending. It asks us to trust our imagination, to try something new, and sometimes to set aside an idea that no longer serves our story. I believe our congregation is standing before such a page today. We're not beginning because our past has failed us. We are beginning because our past has brought us to a moment filled with new possibilities. The next chapter of Mount Vernon Unitarian Church has not been written, and it will not be written by the minister alone, or the board alone, or a small group of leaders. All of us are being invited to help write it. Religious education, investing in people we may never meet. We're beginning a new chapter in that. We welcome a new director who brings new ideas, new energy, new possibilities. But welcoming someone new means more than saying, "Oh, we're glad you're here." It means creating room for that person to lead. It means being willing to experiment. It means understanding that not every new idea will work perfectly the first time. It means resisting the temptation to say, "But we've always done it that way." Not that I've never heard that. But somewhere in our community, there's a child who has not yet walked through our doors, and a family. And they may be wondering whether they are loved, whether they belong, or whether there's a place where they can safely become who they are. What we build today may become that child's spiritual home, that family's spiritual home. Think back on each of you as you discovered this congregation. And now it is your home. We may never know the full effect of the investment we are about to make, but that's the nature of planting seeds. We've inherited a remarkable gift in Holland Hall. It is more than an old building on our property. It is a reservoir of possibility. Imagine for a moment Holland Hall alive with children learning, creating. Imagine adult education, small groups, art, music, spiritual exploration, community gatherings, partnerships with organizations beyond our congregation. Imagine a place where someone who feels isolated finds companionship, where a new family finds community, and where an idea for serving our neighbors becomes a reality. The question is not merely, what does it cost to maintain this building? The larger question is, what ministry can happen here? Dreams require more than enthusiasms, and buildings need care, and programs need funding, and leaders need support, and a vision without investment only remains a wish. That's why sometime in the close future, we'll be preparing for a capital campaign. Not merely a financial exercises, but a spirit of acting and deciding what we value and what we are willing to build together. And today I'm not asking you to make a pledge, I'm asking you just to begin to imagine. What could this congregation become over the next year, 5 years, 10 or 20? What would we create if we stopped thinking only about what is and imagining what could be? How might our campus serve not only those of us who are not here today, but also our neighbors and the generations that will come after us? I know change can be unsettling, and I know new ideas can make us wonder whether the things we love are being left behind. Trying something new carries the possibility that it may not work. But honoring our roots does not mean refusing to grow. A tree that produces no new growth is not preserving itself. It is slowly dying. Our roots give us stability, but they must also provide nourishment for new branches. In this new chapter, we will try some new things that succeed beautifully, and we'll try some other things that fail. But we will learn. A congregation committed to creativity must also be a congregation generous enough to allow experimentation. You know, recently I finished writing another book in my Inspector Sterling series, and I began imagining the next adventure for Inspector Sterling, and finishing the book brought all this satisfaction, but it also brought a strange question. What now? The next book began with a blank page. I have ideas, characters, settings, and possibilities, but this whole story is not yet clear. If I waited until I knew every sentence and every plot, I would never begin. So I write the first line, then the next, and along the way, characters surprise me, new possibilities emerge, and the story becomes something richer than I first imagined. That is where we are as a congregation today. We have not been handed a completed manuscript for our future. We've been given a blank page. And we've been given one another. You know, people understand, what does it mean to be a developmental minister? When you think of the word development, it's action, it's change, it's trying. And so as your developmental minister, my calling is to move you into the future. My calling is to help you develop who you are, who you want to be, what you can be. There is no question in my mind that this place can be a place in this community where people will flock to, that Holland Hall can be a beacon on the hill, and that as that happens, people will come here and will be blessed, and you will be blessed. But it takes all of us to begin this year to work on that blank page, to begin to say, what do we want? And what will our ministry be here? In closing, our roots remind us who we are, a people that believe in the worth and dignity of every person, a people who make room in the table, a people who choose hope even when the way ahead is uncertain. Our wings are our willingness to try something new, to welcome new leadership, nurture our children, imagine creative religious education, and open our buildings more fully to the community. And see Holland Hall not simply as a structure from our past, but a place filled with possibility for our future. The pages before us are blank. What will be written will depend on each of you. What will those who come after us say about this generation? I hope they will say, they did not allow fear to make their decisions. They did not cling so tightly to what had been that they missed what could be. They dreamed boldly. They gave generously. They built wisely. And they left a congregation strong enough to meet the future. The future is not something that simply happens to us. The future is something we create. This is our moment. These are our roots. These are our wings. And now, together, let us fly. Amen and blessed be. Please stand if you're willing and able for our closing hymn, Blue Boat Home. Please say the words of, as we extinguish our chalice, which has already extinguished, but yes. fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. May you leave here today rooted in love that has sustained this congregation, grateful for those who planted trees beneath those shade we now gather. May we also have courage to spread our wings to welcome new ideas, new leaders, new families, and new ways of being together. Our roots remind us who we are. Our wings invite us to imagine who we might become. And our vision calls us to build a future worthy of those who will follow us. The next chapter has not been written. The page is before us, and the pen is in your hands. Let us go forward with gratitude for our past, courage for the journey, and faith in one another. Rooted in love, lifted by hope, may we create the future together. Go in peace and go ready to grow. Amen. And just one quick thing I forgot to remind you, August 27th, this Thursday, we'll have Bob Gibson's big band here, so please come. 7? Oh, it says 7 tonight. Yeah. Thank you.